And I'm here with a very special guest, Nena Ndioma. She is the author of the blog Remembering My Journey, and I'm doubly excited to introduce her today because, number one, she is my sister, my big sister, and she is also the first author, other than myself, that my company, Story She Wrote Media, will be publishing. So she has written a book called Strange Women and Other Strangleholds, an African Christian memoir of marriage, divorce, and survival. This is just a proof, placeholder cover. It's coming, it will be out this year with a different cover, okay? I'm going to let Nena say a few words to introduce herself. All right, go ahead.
Hi, everybody. Well, I think you've said it all, really. But, well, my name is Nena Ndioma, at least that's my pseudonym. About 3 years ago, I became a blogger, blogging about my experience going through a divorce as an African Christian woman. That blog essentially has become the book that's going to be coming out, hopefully, next month.
Hopefully.
Since my sister and I both write, show them your t-shirt.
Oh, that's right.
Since we both write, we thought
t-shirts.
It would be interesting to, and she's just released her book called The Perfect Girl,
last
the
year,
Prostitute,
actually. Yeah.
and other stories. We thought it'd be interesting to interview one another, just about writing. So
right.
That's what
and we have some fun questions mixed in. So what we're doing, we're going to keep it short and sweet. We each thought up 10 questions without consulting the other that we'd ask each other that we thought maybe readers might want to know or whatever. And hopefully some of you have read my book and some of you have followed her journey on her blog, Remembering My Journey, pun not intended. So I'm going to start since her book is coming out this year, and I think you would be more excited to hear what she has to say. Okay? All right. Question number 1. Why the Strange Women book, and why now?
Why Strange Women? Well, I guess it's because 3 years ago when I started writing it, I almost felt compelled to write it. So the essays that make up the book really came to me sort of forcefully, not to sound spooky or anything, but really came to me and were, for the most part, not a struggle to write. And so I do feel like it is a book that just had to be written. So that's why Strange Women, or at least partly why. Why now? I guess the question should be, why not 3 years ago? Because by the end of 2012, the book was essentially written. Everything that is in the book, practically everything that is in the book was already developed by 2012. And so there have been all kinds of twists and turns and delays. And it looks like 2015 is just, the year in which to get it out before I begin to feel disconnected from the issue. Because, yes, I'm divorced, but it's been 3 years now. I'm not where I was 3 years ago, and I feel like this book needs to come out at a time when I can still relate, to other women who are now where I was a few years ago.
Okay. You published under a pseudonym, Nena Ndioma. That's not her real name, your real name. Why? And how do you balance the pride in your work with the need to remain anonymous?
Well, actually, there are 2 reasons why, I decided to write under a pseudonym. And the first reason was not really the most obvious one. When I realized that I wanted to move the blog, so to make a transition from a blog to a book, the first thing that came to mind was, well, I'm not using my real name. First of all, I started blogging without really blogging anonymously. And that's really because I was blogging about, and I do blog about, a sort of sensitive issue, which is, the issue of divorce, which I think is made a bit more sensitive when you have children. And of course, a divorce means that, you were in a relationship with someone for, in a very serious and committed relationship with another human being for a certain length of time. And even though protecting confidentiality is really not entirely possible if you're going to write a book, I wanted to at least make some sort of gesture to show that, you know, I really am trying to protect the privacy of others to the extent that I can.
Okay.
So that's that. What was the other question?
How do you balance the pride in your work with the need to remain for anonymity?
That's a really good question. I guess for me, being or writing under a pseudonym doesn't make me not me. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So even though I'm using a different name, I don't feel like the pride in my work is taken away in any shape or form. You know, I just feel like it's just the right thing to do. Okay. And if people like the work, it could be that they like Nena and Ndioma rather than whoever I really am. But it doesn't really matter because I'm both. So you don't. I mean, it's like as an artist or a writer, you don't. Do you shy away from the recognition? I think is what maybe I meant to ask. The recognition. If you were standing next to someone, say in an airport bookstore, and they're like, "Oh my God, Nena and Ndioma's book, I really loved it," or they're holding your book, would you feel the need to? Would your need for anonymity prevent you from saying, "Oh, I wrote that"? I mean, because I feel like the need for recognition, not because I want to be boastful or whatever, but I'm so proud of what I wrote that if I see someone enjoying it, I would feel like, oh, well, that was me. Right, so, right. I mean, I feel the same way. You always feel, it really feels good. It's gratifying when someone appreciates what you've written. Still, if I was standing next to that person in the bookstore and they say, "Oh, I love Nena Ndioma's book," I would have no problem with saying, "I'm Nena Ndioma. Nice to meet you." You know what I mean? The whole world is my real name. Right. I don't know. Really I'm really able to separate the two and not feel like I lose anything. Okay. So. All right. Sorry, my phone. Are you asking me all or? Yeah. Oh. Well, shouldn't I? Oh, okay. I thought we were. Okay, I'll ask you 5, and then you ask me 5. All right. All right. What do you hope the reader of Strange Woman takes away or gains from reading it? Well, ultimately, I hope that for all the readers, because there'll be different kinds of readers. It's still a blog, even though I've taken down a lot of the blog content. But from my blogging experience, what I found is that when I first started writing the blog, I assumed that my audience was going to be divorced African women like me, right? African Christian women. And then actually you said to me, just write and allow the blog to find its own audience, and that's what it has really done. And what I found is that it looks like the majority of people that actually read the blog are not divorced. I think a lot of them are actually married, which makes a lot of sense. Contemplating practically divorce. All the people I know are married. All are married. And people may be at different stages. Right. Maybe a shaky marriage, people may be contemplating divorce, but there are all kinds of different people. I think they're reading it because maybe they find pleasure in it. Maybe they're curious. Whatever the reasons are, But I do hope that first of all it's a pleasurable experience, but secondly that people who are where I was 3 years ago, or so or more, will feel like they can get through this. Okay. Will feel like there's hope. Okay. Okay. 2 more questions before we break for Perfect Girl. 1, 2, 3. Where are you now, emotionally and spiritually, as opposed to where you were when you started writing Strange Women? And not Strange Women, the book. Maybe RMJ, Remembering My Journey. You know what I mean? Because I feel like there's a gap between. Okay. Right. Where I am emotionally and spiritually. Right. Emotionally I'm in a really, really good place. To the point that, as I said earlier, I feel like this book needs to get out now because before I get too healed, what I mean? And I just can't be able to talk about it. Yeah, I want to be able to talk about it with the same sort of passion with which I wrote the blog or the book, right? So I'm doing really well. And spiritually as well, I don't think I ever really struggled spiritually, as a result of my experiences, right? If anything, stronger. It's really my spirituality that helped me sort of navigate this whole, sort of situation. So, spiritually, I'd say I'm fine as well. Okay. All right. As a Christian divorcee,
how do you view other Christian women who did not leave their husbands, maybe in the same situation as you were? I'm going to let the readers go to your blog, and I'll mention your link after this so that they find out what your circumstances were. But how do you view other Christian women who did not leave their husbands? Do you think they're weak, or do you think they're making some kind of mistake? Do you think...
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing that I think divorce does is, makes you really humble and much less judgmental, especially if you're a Christian. If people go to the blog right now, they're not going to find a lot, because a lot of this just
the juicy bits are in the book,
down, right?
Yeah, right.
But one of the things that I did say on the blog is not there anymore. But at one point, there was a post up there where I talk about this very issue, and I talk about how there really is no room for judgment or for one.
This is the
type
formula.
of one decision being superior to another. The situations are different, the personalities are different, and I would say it's probably as hard to leave as it is to stay. You know what I mean? It's hard to stay as it is to leave. So who's to say this is not about heroism or anything like that? People make decisions just based on their personalities, their specific situations, so on and so forth. So, no.
Okay. So before we switch over to my questions, don't worry, we'll be back with 5 more for Nena and Ndioma. Do you want to say your blog link? I know you've taken down most of the posts, but there's still like some background so they can know exactly. For those who are not reading Remember My Journey, I don't know why you're not. You should get on that right now. So I'll let her mention the blog link.
The blog link is remembering-my-journey.blogspot.com.
Okay, if I can figure out how to edit this thing and put that in, I'll try and leave the link below. But no promises. If not, it'll be in the description box on YouTube and also on the Story She Wrote media page. All right, so now would you like to? Go ahead. So now these are questions for me from my sister. All right.
Okay, so the questions are about The Perfect Girl, The Prostitute, and other stories which I hope you've bought, hope you've read it, I hope you're enjoying it, and I hope you're recommending to others to get.
And leave a review on Amazon.
So, I've told you this before. One of the surprising things about The Perfect Girl. Okay, let me start by saying, sorry that it's a long question. I love to read African authors. And I thought that, I know the way African authors write. I know what to expect. I enjoy their material very much, but I'm never shocked by